I encourage you to look at Judicial Watch's documents. I mean, we have everything you need to know, or there is to know, about what was going on with COVID and China. One of the other angles we've been looking at, obviously, is where this vaccine came from and who in the government knew what and when. And was it the result of gain of function or other type of research supported by the U.S. government, which because as Judicial Watch has uncovered quite directly, and again, doing more than anyone else, frankly, to uncover what was going on with respect to COVID in China. We've uncovered that China was working hand in glove with our government on biologics research in China, including gain of function research. We've proven that. So whenever someone says, well, there's no gain of function research, or no, we have the documents, and we have the documents showing that Fauci knew. Now, the other big issue is that we've talked about biolabs here in the United States that have had issues, and we should also recognize this whole issue of this type of research. It's all part of a collaborative effort, and scientists will say that's a good thing. You know, that's what scientists are supposed to do. But when you get into a situation when you're dealing with the Communist Chinese, I think maybe you should behave differently. So we have new documents that show a Texas researcher, not just any Texas researcher. At the time, he was one of the leaders of one of the most sophisticated and important biolabs in the nation, was in communication with his Chinese counterparts in the Wuhan Institute, warning them about interest from Congress in investigating the origins of the COVID vaccine. The emails are from the director, I think he's since retired, of the Galveston National Laboratory at the University of Texas Medical Branch. Dr. James W. Leduc, his last name is spelled L-E, new word, capital D-U-C, warned Chinese researchers of potential investigations of the COVID issued by Congress. And he was praising the researchers as well. Well, you know, I don't know. The record, for instance, let me just quote the records. So Leduc gets an email saying that Rubio and others in the Senate, Marco Rubio is the senator from Florida, are starting to push for an investigation regarding the Wuhan lab. So Leduc forwards this email to Dr. Xi Zhengeli, a top Chinese virologist. I think is that the Bat Lady? Is that the infamous Bat Lady? Anyway, she's one of the top people there in Wuhan, known for her work with coronavirus at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And he wanted to have a phone conversation soon about the email. Now, what's really interesting is her response. She says, no, due to the complicated situation, I don't think it's a right time to communicate by the call. We can bet the Chinese communists were monitoring everything she was doing. What I can tell you is that this virus is not a leaky from our lab or other labs. So by leaky, it means did it leak out from the labs. It's a shame to make the scientific question so complicated. So here you have this top researcher here in the United States. Again, this is when it was still, well, remember the medical establishment was suppressing, with the help of big tech, questions about the origins of coronavirus. If you suggested it came from a lab or had questions about it, you were in danger of being censored and attacked. And then Leduc responds, I understand completely, and I certainly do not wish to compromise you personally or your research activities. Given our long history of collaborations, I'm emphasizing long, he's not emphasizing it, between the Galveston National Laboratory and the Wuhan Institute, I have been approached repeatedly for details on our work. Attached, and he sends to her a draft summary that he'll be providing to the leadership of the University of Texas and likely to congressional committees. So he's giving her a heads up on this, on his response to American authorities. Now, of course, they didn't give us what his response was. Then he writes another email around this time to Zhengeli again and the director of the Wuhan National Biosafety Laboratory at the Chinese Academy of Life Sciences, Dr. Wuhan Zhiming. He says that he's concerned the Wuhan lab would still be the focus of an investigation. So this is Leduc, the American researcher. I'm afraid this discussion will continue for some time, regarding where early coronavirus work was being done, the role, if any, of the Wuhan CDC in research on bat-associated coronaviruses, and exactly when scientists at WIV, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, first became aware of the new coronavirus and had possessions of specimens in the WIV, and where was that work done, and the level of biocontainment. So all basic questions, and he's concerned those questions are going to be asked, as opposed to wanting them to be asked. In fact, he earlier sent an email with a list of questions that should be answered, and all the questions were quite legitimate. I'm not going to read them all, but basics about who was doing the research, what were the safety protocols, things like that. Where were the viruses stored, and other things. And it turns out that LeDuc's operation was part of a defense operation run by our Defense Department. So Fauci's Associate Director of Research Affairs, Gray Hanley, so one of Fauci's top people, again, this is around the time all these emails, April 2020, once says that the embassy in Beijing is asking what the official name of your DoD-supported training program and some other background information. And to the question, did this training take place in the U.S., China, or both countries? Hanley writes that since 2013, the Galveston National Laboratory was part of the NIH Biodefense Laboratory Network and provided laboratory safety and security training for high-level biocontainment facilities in China, including the Wuhan Institute of Virology. To the question, is this relationship still ongoing? Hanley writes, this relationship has been facilitated since 2007 to 15, so it's been operational since 2015. And LeDuc doesn't say anything's wrong with him, those answers, but says that it was done under two separate awards. So this guy is getting money to spend to work with the Chinese. He's advising the Chinese how to deal with American inquiries about the origin of the lab. He's clearly nervous that there'll be questions about the potential origin of the virus from the lab. And Judicial Watch is uncovering all of this. These startling documents show that China had partners here in the United States willing to go to bat for them on the Wuhan lab controversy. And, you know, we've seen documents earlier where, and I forget the name of the official who was sending an email to NIH or Fauci's people, I forget which, but it was our government, asking for specifics on how to keep the lab disinfected and what disinfectants to use. It was like basic, it seemed to me like lab safety 101 questions. You read that, you wouldn't want these folks making you a ham sandwich, let alone working on coronaviruses. And now we know that there was support for gain of function, not only here in the United States, but in China, where they were taking diseases or taking viruses and making them more likely to infect human beings. And everything I've read about this, and I've read it pretty extensively, but I guess I'm not allowed to comment on this, right? So Bill Gates, who is a billionaire who ran a corporation, is allowed to comment on vaccines and public health matters. But the head of a government watchdog group who has been investigating these public health agencies and reviewing government documents for 2 decades, I'm not allowed to say anything. That's the way the left thinks. But I am going to say something. All the evidence suggests this isn't a natural virus. It was man-made. Someone messed with it and it got out. Now, do I know that for a certainty? Of course not. But I encourage you to look at Judicial Watch's documents. I mean, we have everything you need to know, or there is to know, about what was going on with COVID and China. It's just incredible material. And now we've got this new material.